So we have finished Pancha Kleshas, which is the starting of the chapter. And in your syllabus, there are 6 other sutras which you need to learn for the YCB level 2. So the sutras 46 to 51, these are related to asana and pranayama. I will just go one by one. So the 46th sutra is Stiram Sukham Asanam. Stiram Sukham Asanam. What is mean by Stiram? Stability. Sukham means gracious or happiness. Asana means a posture. Out of all the 196 sutras given by Patanjali Maharshi, only 3 sutras are dedicated to the asana. So if somebody asks you how many sutras Patanjali Maharshi has explained about asana, means only 3 sutras. And the first one is Stiram Sukham Asana. So the main meaning, to say in a very single line, whichever asana you do, whichever asana, whether it is Vrikshasana, whether it is Ardhamatsendrasana, whether it is Sirshasana, whichever asana you are doing, you have to do that asana, the final pose of that asana. When I see a person is doing, has reached his final state of that asana, his face should be glowing with comfort, gracious. That means there should not be even a slightest bit of strain seen in his face or in your body. So sometimes you see a person who is doing Vrikshasana, he might be clenching his feet, or he might be forcibly holding the hip joint. There are some parts where to get that final posture, he will be straining his body. So that straining should not be there in the body. So Stiram means an asana when you are doing, if you do that asana, the final pose, the asana should be very Stiram. Stability should be there. You should not keep on moving. There should not be wandering, or there should not be juggling, moving like this and like that. Pendulum, like people will be singing. There should not be that. Stiram Sukham Asana. And here, out of all the asanas in Hatha Yoga Pradipika, you might have also heard in the last few classes, Bhadrasana, Padmasana, Simhasana. There were 4 asanas which we discussed: Padmasana, Bhadrasana, Swastikasana, and Sukhasana. These are all meditation postures. So a person who starts in the yogic journey, initially he will learn many asanas: standing asanas, sitting asanas, kneeling, inverted, so many asanas. But once he reaches stability, once he knows the importance of asana, once his body is physically fit, he will settle down in meditation posture only, because that is the final state, because you want to reach the samadhi. You want to have dharana, dhyana and samadhi, which are the last steps. So a person can learn any asana, any complicated asana, but the end, he should settle down in meditative posture. So the postures of meditation, it says the postures of meditation should have steadiness and ease. The posture, whichever posture, the meditation posture, the person is sitting, the yogic practitioner, steadiness should be there and easiness should be there. So to give one more dimension of this particular sutra, posture should be stable and comfortable. So there should be any posture, it could be. Posture should be stable and comfortable, and there should be balance between effort and ease. How much effort you are giving to come into the final posture, it should be very easy. There should not be any discomfort. So Stiram, as we say, it refers to stability. It refers to the strength. It refers to the intention of our mind. So the main meaning is Stira has been arised from the root word sta, which means to stand firmly. Stiratvam. You want to stand it very firmly without any moving. So that is Sthirata. Sthirata in general is known as fire. So it is the fire which is in your mind, which we want to make to get into that final posture. Sthirata is the fire. It is the part of the practice that requires you to be fully present when you enter that particular position. When you are entering into the final position, you might experience discomfort. This discomfort could be arised from the physical body, or from the mind, or from the energetic body. even with that discomfort, if you are able to come to the final posture and you are able to maintain that one, removing all the discomfort, finding stability in the body and as well as the mind, then we say that we have reached to asana sthiti. That asana sthiti is nothing but steady fastness in the posture. And we already discussed that asana sthiti is nothing but when the shape is steady, your muscles should be engaged, your breath should be rhythmic, and supportive of the movement unfolding before you. That means, initially I told when Vrukshasana, our muscles will be there. We will be clenching our feet. So when you are coming to the final asana sthiti, not only your body should be steady, each and every muscle should be engaged, and there should not be any problem in your breath. A few people, if you see, they will be panting. So that panting of breath should not be there. Your breath should be very rhythmic. In general, it should be of Ujjayi. Whenever you are reaching the final state of any asana, your breath should be like same as Ujjayi. Sukha. Sukha refers to comfort, easiness, openness. Literal meaning is to find happiness while doing this, while doing that particular posture. So Sukha occurs when we learn to let go in the sense, suppose you were trying to practice to get an expertise in Ashtavakra Asana. So there is an asana known as Ashtavakra Asana where our body will be balanced on a single hand and we will be interlocking our legs. So that is because our body will be bent in eight different places. We say that Ashtavakra Asana. So to gain that expertise, you need to have a lot of strength. You need to have a lot of practice. You need to practice each and every day to gain that stability, to go into that posture and again come out of that posture. So Sukha here means you know that practice is difficult. You know that to going into the posture, you have to go through some pain, some physical discomfort. Otherwise, muscles are very relaxed. If you're tensing your muscle, then if you're twisting, then only you can go to that final posture. You have decided that you are going to give pain to that muscles. You have decided that you are going to move your arms. You are going to move your legs in such a way that that happiness of that particular part, you are leaving it. You just want to try harder to go to that particular posture at the end posture. So to have alignment, we are selecting Sukha over Dukkha of that particular organs. So our mind should feel calm, content and spacious so that the pranic, the life force energy can flow freely through us when we have come to the final posture. So here Sukha means after coming to that asana, we should not strain our mind, we should not strain our physical body so that the prana will be flowing freely through us. So at the end, on our mat, when a person is on the mat, we should constantly in search of harmony between the strength and the stability as well as flexibility and freedom. Having too much of one and not having the other, it also creates imbalance between us. A very good example here given is a person who is having very good amount of strength, he can do Chaturanga Dandasana very easily. Suppose imagine a person who is having very strength, who has good strength, stamina is there, he can easily do Chaturanga Dandasana. But if that person is not having any flexibility, he might not do correctly the Purna Bhujangasana. He can do Chaturanga Dandasana because he is having stamina and strength. He might not easily do Purna Bhujangasana because that requires a backward bend. Because he is not having that flexibility, he might not do it. Here, the freedom is gone. So, there are chances that a person might be good in strength, a person not good at stability. It depends. On the other hand, if you are concentrating only on flexibility, a person can do different kind of gymnastic postures. He will do so many postures, difficult all Ashtavakra posture, Chakrasana also there is a Chakra Bandha Asana. So many asanas are there, difficult postures. He might be able to do that difficult postures, but he might not be able to hold that posture for longer time because he is making contracts of his body, CO contracts. CONTROTS. Contracts in the sense he is moving his body like anything, like what we say floor. He is moving this, he's twisting his body like anything because he wants to show that his body has so much flexibility, but he might not have that strength at all. He has flexibility, he might not have strength. So at the end, a Stiram Sukham Asana means we should have Sthirata and also Sukham while doing the posture. Second one, Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. The second sutra, Prayatna Shaitilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. So Prayatna means with effort, Shaitilya means relaxation, Ananta infinite, endless, boundless, Samapatibhyam, that is unison or Samadhi. So all these three sutras are related to asana only. First one, Maharshi says that Stiram Sukham Asanam. So while coming to the asana, there should be stability and strength. While coming to the asana with stability and strength, you should be able to Prayatna, you are doing some effort to come into the final posture, right? Your Prayatna, you are doing some effort to come into that final posture. You have to relax that Prayatna. Whatever effort you are giving, if you are able to stop that effort, then only our body will reach its soul, that is, our body will reach its cosmic universe, our body will merge with what we want. You want to come to a final posture, you have given some effort, with Stiram and Sukham, you have reached the final posture. When you stop the effect of Prayatna, coming to that final posture, your body will be in bliss. Bliss means Atma has merged with Paramatma. That is, the final posture should give you Samadhi, should give you that effect of, yes, I have achieved this, I have achieved this asana. Now, there is no difference between myself and the outside. So that Samapatibhyam, I am going to merge, it's come only when you reach to the final state. So here Patanjali explains the sadhana practice should be effortless. There should not be no force. Effortless breathing. There should not be non-uniformity in the breathing. Your breathing should be very smooth. Okay, there should not be any differences. Effortless movement. The movement should not be gigantic movements. The movement should not be dynamic movements. It should be very effortless. When this effortlessness is experienced, the conditions are naturally right for us to realize that infinite, unchanging reality of Ananta. That means this universe is infinite. When you do effortless to come into an asana, then you are going to merge yourself with the reality of the Ananta. So the word Prayatna here is nothing but effort. This effort is nothing but force. The word Shaitilya means letting go of. Therefore, Prayatna Shaitilya is letting go of the need to do with force. It should automatically come into your body with ease. Ease, you should be able to do that asana. There is no longer a need to do anything with force or effort. We are resting. In the final posture, we are just simply resting, softening, widening, and deepening gently and comfortably into yoga. So this state of yoga, inherently, it always exists, and we are existing in that. We need only to realize that. So this is what about the second sutra, which is related to asana. So here we says, when the mind lets go the asana automatically, when you are at the Sukham, and when you think that there is no effort given by your body, when the mind accepts this one, it is easier to perform that asana, and we feel the muscles and the connective tissues, they soften and relax. It is then your body will settle down and the effort to perform the asana is left out. So this is the second one. Third one. Third sutra, important one. Tato, then. Tato, dvandva anibhighataha. Tato dvandva anibhighataha. Tato, therefore, now, therefore, from it is related to the first two. Therefore, once you do Stiram Sukham Asanam, once you do Prayatna Shaitilya Samapatibhyam, then what happens? Dvandva, opposites, dualities. anabhighataha, insulation, then you won't get disturbed. Then once you do the first two sutras, when you are doing an asana with sthirata and sukham, and when you are not giving any kind of effort to do that asana, that means your entire body is doing that asana with effortless, then you are not disturbed by any kind of opposites. Dvandva means opposites, pair of things. So your body is no longer disturbed. So he makes the third statement on asana, that is the sequence from the first two. Tataha means now, the asana, now means this asana, the practitioner is unaffected, anabhighataha, unaffected by dualities, that is the dvanda. Here, what is meant by dualities? Two opposites like up and down, hot and cold, pleasure and pain, good and bad, success and failures. These are known as dvandva. So all those sufferings, usually in this universe, any kind of suffering you take, that arises because of the pairs of opposites. A coin has two sides. A particular situation might prove good to one person. The same situation might prove bad to another person. Corona, when Corona came, so many people thought it was very difficult for the humanity to face, and many people has lost their jobs, many people has faced so many problems, many people lost their own family members also. There was so much chaos, there was so much confusion, but the same condition of Corona had reaped so many benefits for some parts of the community. For example, take Zoom. When before Corona, Zoom was only having memberships around, I think 5,000 memberships were available in India. Only 5,000. But after Corona, Zoom memberships have gone up to 5 lakhs. Where is 5,000? Where is 5 lakhs? The Zoom's shares have increased like anything. And before Corona, if one has to learn yoga, everyone was preferring to go and learn near the teacher, sitting in front of him. Everybody wants to go and learn there. But what Corona made was, even yoga has been made practice without any teacher. Only with online, connecting through online, your teacher will be existing at the other part of the world and the student will be here in India. Both of them are practicing. So some things, it could prove beneficial for someone, it could not be beneficial for others. So these sufferings arises from the pairs of opposites. So it is said that he asserts that the first affliction, that is the avidya, because of avidya, all these spiritual sufferings are arised. And naming permanent, what is impermanent? I explained you, naming permanent. People think that youth is permanent. Youth is not permanent. Naming permanent, what is impermanent. Naming purity, which is impure. Naming happiness, which is going to be painful. And self, which is not the self. I think I am the creator. I think I am the creator of my destiny. I think I am doing everything. But I am not the real self. There is somebody else. So all these sufferings are arised because of avidya. So the practice of yoga will ask us to suspend our certainties and to direct our awareness to ekagra, that is to a point of focus. So in asana, the point of focus should be often sight, sound, sensation of the movement. So this is about the third sutra, Tato Dvanda Anabhighataha.